Franklin Regional has embarked on a challenging journey to provide students with a world-class education by creating a rigorous educational program that will be taught in schools designed to support 21st century educational opportunities. This journey began with the school board commissioning a feasibility study last spring that provided the district with insight to the physical conditions of its buildings and properties. Finally, after 4 town hall meetings that drew a wide audience from around the FR community, numerous stakeholder meetings, and tours of comparable regional facilities, the decision was made to begin a 10 to 15-year renovation building program that would commence with the elementary comprehensive campus on the Sloan property site. This campus will consist of a newly renovated Sloan Elementary to house K-2 students and a new building to house students in grades 3 to 5. Each of these gentlemen played a critical role in this process. They will share with us today the feasibility study process, the vision for the future of Franklin Regional's elementary campus, and how the project will roll out over the next several years. This will be the first part of a 3-part show focusing on how FR's long-range master facility plan will support a world-class education program in academics, the arts, and athletics. You won't want to miss this show, so grab a cup of coffee, kick back, and join us. FR in Focus is coming our way next. Welcome to FR in Focus. Joining me today are Superintendent of Franklin Regional School District, Dr. Gennaro Perino, and School Board Member, Mr. John Corey. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you so much for taking your time. I know you have a busy schedule, but this is really an important subject that we need to speak about that affects the entire FR community. And I want to start by trying to set the stage for folks on how we got to where we're at, what actually took place to try to get us to this point.
Really, the story of making the decision to take a deep look at our facilities started during my entry into Franklin Regional 4 years ago. As I met with stakeholder after stakeholder, they would talk to me about the condition of our facilities and as well as some of the limitations presented educationally from our current facilities. At first I thought it was probably cosmetically based. However, it didn't take long after a number of major mechanical failures and structural issues to learn that the scope of our issues with our facilities were pretty large. So at that point, we began having conversations as a board, touring facilities, looking at the situation. And the board wanted to lead into the future, both educationally as well as in terms of physical plant condition, with facts and information as opposed to speculations and feelings. And so really the board commissioned the study to take this comprehensive look at Franklin Regional, at the condition of our facilities, in terms of both the function, but as well as the educational form. And to really make Franklin Regional a great place to live, work, learn, and play.
That is true. I know the board put a lot of time into it, and both the administration and the school board collectively, but Mr. Corey, you have been instrumental in this process from the beginning. And can you share with us why the board decided to commission the study and why you chose VEBH as our architectural firm?
Sure. There were really 3 reasons for why we decided to do the feasibility study. The first reason is it's incumbent on any organization to have a plan for the future. And so it struck the board pretty quickly we needed a 10 to 15 to 20 year plan for the future. That was the first part. The second part is we also recognize, as Dr. Perino just mentioned, the age of our buildings is such, we have buildings that are anywhere from 50 to 90 years old. And some of the parts of those buildings are still the original structure of the building. Talking about the underground pipes and the sewer lines and so on. Those are the original all the way back to 1928. There's also, even though we've had some modernizations and renovations to the buildings, there are a number of equipment items in those buildings that are what we refer to from an engineering standpoint are either at, near, or beyond their end of their useful life. Let me take a second and explain what end of useful life means.
Sure.
from an engineering standpoint, companies will tell you that when they install a boiler or a compressor, they're usually good for 20, 25, 30 years. They have a different number for every different piece of equipment. So if you track that, and we did do that, we know that a lot of our equipment items that are in these buildings, all 5 of our buildings, are near or even beyond the end of the useful life.
Wow.
And then on top of that, as Dr. Prana just mentioned, we had a couple of occasions in this last year where we had some of these equipment items actually fail. We had a compressor, we had an air chiller, and we had some HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning equipment actually fail on us, which was a surprise. We did not expect it. So trying to avoid all that, you wrap all those things together, that is the reason why we decided we needed a feasibility study. Now, as to how we chose VEBH, I guess what I would say is that was what I would refer to as a extremely comprehensive and rigorous process. It was not a 1-week, 2-week effort. It actually spanned 5 months to actually come through from the beginning to the end of the process.
Wow.
We started with what we would call a screening study, just looking at all the available companies that can do a feasibility study. And we down selected from those companies what we considered were the 5 best in that category. So we sent out a bid proposal to those 5 companies and received proposals. The board sat down with the administration and we evaluated those 5 proposals, concluded we didn't get enough information on those 5. We interviewed each of the 5 individually, a couple hour interviews for each company. Then after those interviews were completed, we sent a list of questions to each of the 5 bidders to try to sort out a little bit more information. So we received written answers from the 5 companies. We brought them in again and had another round of interviews, direct interviews with the 5 companies. Now we started to get a picture of who were the top 2 or 3, but that wasn't enough. We went one more step. We actually went and toured some of the district schools that these architect engineers had in the past completed.
That's a great idea.
The construction of those. So we're able to walk around and see firsthand what exactly was the quality of their work. But as part of that, we also interviewed the school districts.
You were able to talk to them?
We talked to the school districts, and we were able to find out, what I would call the lessons learned that the school districts had to share with us about what worked and what didn't work. So when you shake all that up together, it became pretty clear to us as a board, not just the board of one, but as the entire board, that the choice was VEBH. That was the right choice for us to make.
Well, that is an intense process. I don't think most people understand that there's that much work that goes into just selecting an architect, but if you think about it, it's a really big task that the architect is going to have on their shoulders. So yeah, the board definitely did their due diligence on that.
And we have to get it right, because when you choose your architect engineer, that's the one you're going to be with for a long time.
Oh, very much so. So now we had 4 town hall meetings. Why the town hall meetings? Why did we decide to do that, and why was that the best approach for starting this project?
For me, there's 2 points to that. One was transparency. That was really important to the board and to the school district.
Yes.
We wanted to be transparent to the community, overly transparent if anything else. And the second was we wanted to get feedback, constructive feedback from the community as to what our ideas were and what feedback we could get from them in terms of their thoughts as to whether those were good ideas or not. So we had actually 4 town hall meetings, as you mentioned. The first one was only to talk the process and the timeline. We didn't cover any. The board went into this without having an idea of what the end was. We just knew we needed, as I mentioned earlier, to have a long-range vision plan. We had to have a 15-year plan. So the first town hall meeting was to review the process for the community, just to talk about the 2-year process that we were going to go through. The second town hall meeting was we received the results of the feasibility study. So there was another 3-hour meeting to talk about the structural analysis, the engineering reviews, the inch-by-inch review that the engineering and architect and engineer company did for us to give us the results of what they thought the costs were to maintain. The third town hall meeting was to we selected 3 top options that we thought were the ones to go the highest order of selection. and we wanted to review those with the community, tell them these are our three, and of the three we thought this was number one.
Now, the third changed to more of a roundtable setting,
Yes,
correct?
you're right.
So,
Yeah, the
okay,
third
so-
was a roundtable. So the first two were in the auditorium, more presentation format. The third was a town hall meeting. We had over 100, 125 people, and we obtained feedback from each table of 8 people. And out of all, and then the fourth one, finally, when we down-selected to a recommendation, we presented that to the community in the same type of roundtable format and got some more feedback. And the point I'd like to highlight is out of all that, we received probably 400 individual comments
Wow, really?
from individuals.
Wow, okay.
And the board went through, board administration, we went through each one of those comments, one by one by one by one, categorized them, put them in buckets, and gave that feedback back to the community in the fourth town hall meeting, as well as in some public board meetings.
Wow.
So we tried not to leave any stone unturned in terms of getting some good feedback from the community.
And in between those town hall meetings, there was a great deal of work done by a number of stakeholders, not only the administration and the board, but we also engaged staff as well as parents in different components of the process. So we had a number of stakeholder meetings that we called expanded team meetings, where we gave those stakeholders the opportunity to give us information about how our facilities impact teaching and learning, academics, athletics, as well as the arts. And so we listened to people during those stakeholder meetings. And then we took groups of parents as well as educators out to other school systems we believed were innovators or leaders in terms of facilities or education, and took them on tours of comparable facilities across our region. And so there was a number of hours, even outside of those town hall meetings, where people were engaged in not only studying our facilities, but studying facilities to meet today's educational needs, as well as those educational needs that we will not only meet but exceed in the future.
And I think that's a good idea, because unless you have worked, like I have in other school districts, you're not really sure, if you're from Franklin Regional and you've only known Franklin Regional, what's out there and what's available for students and educators that have that 21st century mentality on education and want to see their students move forward.
Let me pick back on what he said. To me, it was a stroke of genius to decide to go out to these other districts, because we saw
It was.
we saw the good
Yeah.
and we saw the not so good.
Yeah.
And it helped the board learn a lot about what was most useful for us in terms of our planning, the eventual architectural design of whatever we decide to do. So that was really I went on those trips myself personally with a number of the school districts, and they were extremely valuable in trying to help us figure out what is the right way to go.
Well, and you were smart about there were teachers on board, there
Yes.
was board member administrators, you had parents and PTO and all those different voices coming at you, all looking at the schools in different ways and giving you feedback. So that was a great idea.
Honestly, as we talked to other school systems, we realized that our approach was somewhat unique in that we engaged hundreds of stakeholders.
A lot.
We listened to their thoughts, their perspectives, their insight, and whether they were community art groups or community recreation and athletic groups, to our teachers and our students. It really impacted that 10 to 15 year plan for Franklin Regional.
Which is good, because you want people to, it's their school, so you want them to
Exactly.
have a voice in it. Now, Dr. P, you obviously have a vision for the educational component of this. What exactly is the plan for the renovations and the new build for FR? What are we looking at?
We're actually entering into a multiple phase process. And really, the board made the conscious decision that they would begin with the focus on our elementary campus. And so, looking at that, the next phase, over the next 15 or 16 months, we will be looking to do the schematic design and plans for a K-2 elementary school, which is a renovated Sloan Elementary School, as well as the construction of a new 3 to 5 elementary school on the Sloan campus. The K-2 elementary school will really our plan and our objective with that design is to create an elementary experience for our students that really meets their social, emotional, and developmental needs in addition to their academic needs. And so as students come into that school, we know that our youngest students come in and play, and exploration is critical to what they do every single day. And so as our students are engaged in the academic requirements or demands, they're also engaged in activities that are age appropriate, that meet their developmental needs. In the 3 to 5 building, it really becomes a great deal more about active, meaningful engagement of students. And so that space will look differently. In addition to innovative classrooms that have great technologies to enhance what students do in that classroom, there will also be other spaces, spaces that allow them to engage in daily STEM study. Science, technology, engineering, and mathematics will be such an integral part of their daily learning experience, as well as the expansion of opportunities in terms of academic development in gymnasiums, as well as the artistic side in terms of performing arts areas and our special areas, whether it be art rooms, band rooms, or special presentation areas. And so the next phase of this is really to plan what that looks like. How can we make FR a leader, not only in our region, but across our nation for generations to come?
Well, and I think that the idea of an elementary campus is a good one because you have all of the elementary students on the same campus, and the way you're splitting the buildings seems to work to meet the academic needs. But I was at the town hall meetings, and there were some questions raised on why we're starting with the elementary. Why don't we just start with the middle school? Why don't we start with the high school? Why are we starting with the elementary?
In a perfect world, we would start with the high school and work back because it would impact the most number of students. However, when we look at our current situation on our campuses, to really change the physical footprint, we have to address the number of buildings on our campuses for the future. And so we could certainly take a short-range look at this in terms of Franklin Regional, but the reality is, as good stewards of the taxpayer, as stewards for future generations, it's important to really look long-term. And so as we look at creating that elementary experience, we really create the ideal elementary experience by having that elementary campus. The other thing it enables us to do is really make the right decisions, the long-term impactful decisions on our secondary campus in the future. And so we'll be able to develop our facilities, whether it's lab space, technology education space, art spaces, or athletic spaces, we are able to make the right decision based upon the future of education for our students. And so taking a look at this campus, it also solves some safety issues. It's also safety issues in terms of traffic patterns on our campus.
Yeah.
All you have to do is drive on our campus between 7:15 in the morning and 9 o'clock, and you realize that there is no easy traffic flow that accommodates the number of cars. And so when we spread that out among 2 campuses, we're able to create a much safer and convenient, actually, situation for students and the people that are dropping them off, be it bus drivers or parents.
Which is so important. So absolutely, safety is paramount on what we do. Now I know that during one of the town hall meetings, it was mentioned that if we didn't do anything at all and we were just going to repair the schools as they stand right now, the price tag was astronomical. I believe like 70 to 90 million to try to repair those buildings. So why was that not considered an option?
Well, we actually considered it as an option because the so-called status quo option is something we could decide. But as a board and administration together, we concluded that would not be the prudent thing to do as being representatives of the taxpayers. The feasibility study, as I mentioned earlier, was performed by VEBH and their engineering organization, was pretty much an inch-by-inch review of all of our 5 buildings. And they concluded from the detailed engineering analysis that to maintain the buildings in their current state over the next 5 to 10 years, considering the things that I mentioned before about equipment being at the end of its useful life and so on, would be in the $70 to $90 million price range, and that was based on engineering analysis and engineering estimates. Of that 70 to 90 million, about 31 million was for the 3 elementary buildings. So if we did nothing, we'd probably end up expending 30 or so million. We think it would be, if we build go with the elementary campus that we're talking about, the K2, existing Sloan, and 3-5 for a new building, we would probably save about 90% of that 30 million and not have to spend it because we'd have the new buildings in place by that time. So from a dollars and cents standpoint, it just makes imminent sense to move forward with that.
It does, yeah.
Then we have the second that Dr. Pryor was talking about is the educational aspect, which is really critically important. And where we are positioned, we're positioned, I think, fairly well because the Franklin Regional School District has an educational vision that's in place.
Right.
It's not something we're trying to create. It's there and in place. And in implementing that educational vision, we're actually facility limited. We could do a lot more to meet the educational vision if we had different facilities.
Well, I think we saw that on our tours when we went there as to how much we
Absolutely.
could offer
I
our
could give you
students.
perfect examples in terms of even from an educational standpoint about equity. Just this morning, I was out in classrooms, and it was for a group of students as part of a club. They were coming in early to do work on Hummingbird kits.
Yeah.
And to tell you what Hummingbird kits are, just so you know, Hummingbird kits are essentially it's programmable robotics, and it incorporates English language arts where the students create scenes that tell a story. And then there are movable parts and lights and things of that nature that students program to respond to tell that story. And so the students spend a lot of time working on this. However, one of the things I noticed is based upon our space and environment that we really don't have the space or the time during the regular school day to make that viable. And so students are relying upon parents as well as other factors to be able to get in and have that experience. We believe through the creation of this new facility that we'll take those types of experience and we'll ingrain it in the experience of all students, regardless of their zip code or which community they live in or their ability to get into the school for that experience. And so we really, from an educational standpoint, strongly believe that there's a necessity.
And you have definitely put the time and effort into this project. I personally have been involved with a lot of projects at different school districts, and I have never seen the time commitment that's been given to this project before anything has even started. So everybody, every member of the board, every member of the administration had a critical role in this, and I think it shows on how we've gotten to this point in time. From here, where are we going now?
One of the things I would like to do, make sure that we cover in this is some of the points we made at last night's school board meeting. And I'm going to read so I make sure we say it exactly the way we said it at the school board meeting for anybody's benefit.
That's fine.
And the points that were made about this is what we're going to get by moving forward with this plan. We're going to obtain a unique elementary academic space that will improve instruction and learning opportunities across the curriculum that will address the Franklin Regional 21st century educational needs. Educational equity to every Franklin Regional elementary student. We're going to maximize human resource efficiency by concentrating faculty and staff on one campus, allowing for increased student contact time. We're going to eliminate congestion and parking problems that Dr. Pryor just mentioned on the main campus. Now this is a real innovation. We're going to be able to have simultaneous evening events on the elementary and main campus at the same time, which we can't do today.
Right.
We're going to separate buses and autos from each other, thereby improving safety. And this is a proactive action. We can always take action after the fact if something were to happen, but we're going to be proactive ahead of time. We're going to free up space for potential middle school, high school, and athletic facilities additions, emphasis on the word potential, because we haven't figured that out yet, but we the board and administration know that's what we want to look at next. And we also, the Sloan Elementary campus will address what we've been told we should expect, which is an increase in the elementary school population. So that's kind of what we're going to obtain out of all this. The timeline for all this is that over this summer, we are all going to be extremely busy with the design. In fact, Dr. Prano and I and the VEBH folks are coordinating our vacation times. So we try not to be out
That's dedication.
at the same time, because we are going to receive submittals
Oh, yeah.
from the architect engineer for approval. And so there's a lot of work ahead of us. But the timeline would be we'll place a contract to finish the design work, begin construction in 2018, and hopefully we should, by the timeline, have the school in place and have students enter in September of 2020. So that's our timeline.
Absolutely, and I think it's important to emphasize to our audience and to our stakeholders that their engagement in this process doesn't end with last night's vote.
Right.
Through the schematic design and planning phase, we are looking to have similar town hall meetings that we saw with the third and fourth town hall meeting, with a greater audience of folks, as well as bringing in our stakeholders who have specialized knowledge based upon their content or based upon teaching children to gain their insight and expertise. And so, as well as continuing to look not only within our region but outside of our region for other world-class facilities, and so to be better informed or as informed as possible about the possibilities and potentials.
So for those people that thought that it ended last night with the vote, it did not. It's just beginning.
It's just the beginning. We have a long road
But it
ahead
is
of us.
exciting. This is a really exciting time for Franklin Regional, the community, and especially for our students, because the students are the ones that will ultimately be the benefactors, along with the property owners as well. This will definitely keep the property values where they need to be with Franklin Regional, because the three communities are so wonderful here.
When we take a look at this, the reality of the situation is this. Not only will it impact immediately our current generation of students, it's also going to benefit students for generations to come, students who are not even born yet. And so when you look at the legacy and the impact that we have the opportunity to really create for this community, it's exciting, and it's a huge responsibility, because we have to take care of the taxpayers now, as well as prepare our students of the future for the success that we're certain that they will achieve.
There's one more point that I should have mentioned earlier, but I wanted to, and it's really important to the administration and to the board, and that is, we are designing these facilities not for facility's sake. It's not that we're trying to build a Taj Mahal or anything else like that. What we're going to do is build the facility that matches the educational vision. And we've been to a couple districts where we saw where that was done, where they had an educational vision first, and then built the facility to enhance that educational vision. And the end product is those districts are doing better than they were beforehand. And so that's our intent, is to design the facility to match the current educational vision and not the vice versa, which I think would be the wrong way to do it, because then you end up with a nice facility, but not necessarily something that supports your educational vision.
Right, and the educational component is what we're here for. So absolutely, I know we're in good hands. So I could talk about the subject all day long. This is really exciting, and I'm really happy to be part of the team with this. But unfortunately, we're out of time. So I want to thank you guys for being here, taking your time out of your schedules. I know you have a big summer ahead, and I know we got a lot of work ahead of us, but this is a fabulous start.
Thank you.
As I stated, the first part of this three-part series that will be dedicated to the subject on the feasibility and the renovation and building. Our second part of the series will focus on an educational component of this project, which will influence all of the major decisions related to the construction and renovation of FR schools. Joining us on that program will be Dr. Mary Catherine Raljak, who is Assistant Superintendent. Now, these administrators have toured local districts, and the districts have already made the leap to renovate their schools to bring them up to the 21st century levels. So you won't want to miss this segment of FR in Focus. Until we meet again, FR in Focus wishes you a lifetime of learning. Thanks for joining us, and have a great day.